Brian.
What?
Brian.
What?
Brian, we have announcements.
Yes, we do, Corey. Corey and I are hosting a mindful tea and meditation evening called Breathe In Tea on Thursday, July 26th at Small Tea in Coral Gables, Florida, from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Come have tea and meditate with us while Corey leads a discourse on the nature of experience.
Tickets are available at breatheandtea.eventbrite.com. That's breatheandtea.eventbrite.com. Seating is limited. I can't take it anymore. I'm so excited. Brian, get pumped.
Wait, why? What happened?
We're hosting a meditation retreat.
What? When did this happen?
Ladies and gentlemen, for your enjoyment, for your pleasure, for your continued advancement on the path and connectedness with the nature of the universe,
Brian Lemmerman and Corey Hardiger present
Focus and Flow, an immersive meditation retreat, August 11th and 12th at the Alma Community Life Center in Vero Beach, Florida.
Saturday, Sunday.
It's a 2-day mindfulness and meditation retreat.
I thought you said it was in advance.
We're not going to retreat from the self. Instead of a retreat, it's an advance. We're going towards yourself. We're taking it back. We're sticking it to the retreat. We're going to learn about the self, how we define ourselves, and the stories that we tell about ourselves that are half-truths, accepting what has been and moving forward. You will learn meditations and mindsets to help you focus and flow in your life.
Save the date. Focus and Flow, an immersive meditation retreat, August 11th and 12th. Later this week, we will release the website and sign-up information.
If you come to the Breathe and Tea event, you can sign up for Focus and Flow and get special discounts.
Now, on to the episode.
Doom.
Brian here. Despite being one of the Doom guys, as Corey and I have become known in the mindfulness circles, I've had quite a bit of practice generating my own happiness. After years of practice, I'm able to consistently hold my attention on it, and I've learned how to release my former attachments to ideas, beliefs, relationships, and material goods that perceivably interfere with my personal joy and freedom. This is one way of defining what it means to be on the path, the never-ending life game of catch and release, where we train ourselves to constantly be on a neutral high alert for all of our unconscious thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, so we can bring them into our awareness and choose what to keep and what to drop. Through the removal of that which no longer serves us, we get closer to the loving essence of whatever is hiding underneath all of that, which, when expressed, makes a lasting positive impact on our own lives and on the lives of others. Some call it the soul, and some traditions believe there's no self at all. No matter how you want to view it, in my experience, living openly without the internal resistance that comes from limiting beliefs and poor integrity suits my preference. That said, I'm always a work in progress. Back in March 2018, I attended the first annual World Happiness Festival in San Miguel de Allende in the state of Guadajuato, Mexico. I was asked to facilitate a B shop, what founder Luis Gallardo calls the workshops there, on self-compassion. As an avid podcaster and media producer, I took the opportunity to record interviews with over a dozen of the festival's organizers, facilitators, and participants to gather their viewpoints on death, happiness, and robots. There was quite a bit of talk about the future of technology in the mindfulness space, and I can't wait for you to hear all about it. After the festival, while ambling around the city, I stumbled into Milo Gon, one of the festival's many talented performing musicians. He invited me to spend the evening with him and some of his friends at a quaint home on the outskirts of town. When I arrived, I found myself amidst a loving band of musical souls whose several-hour practice sessions came with cervesa and medicinal plant experiences. Naturally, I contributed my meditation flute to the mix. The music you'll hear in this episode, and the episodes to come, were recorded live from that very evening, and they asked if I would share it with you. This episode is about death, the end of the world, and what we're actually doing about it as leaders in the mindfulness movement. We'll open up with a recording from the world's happiest bus ride, which brought the festival's organizers from the center of town to the festival itself. You'll hear the voices of Gloria Belendez-Ramirez, the festival's host in San Miguel, Luis Gallardo, the festival's founder, and Kendrop Rinpoche, the millennial monk from Bhutan. Following that, we'll hear from Boris Bernadsky and get a Chinese medicine practitioner's perspective on the dark side of the self. Samdhu Chetri, executive director of Bhutan's Gross National Happiness Center, discusses the challenge of being alive, our impending doom, and possibilities for shifting the next generation of humans on the planet. And finally, we'll hear from founder Luis Gallardo at length about what's actually being done right now to fulfill those possibilities, why true happiness has been so elusive for human beings, and what you can do to welcome happiness into your life.
Welcome to Mindfulness of Doom, a weekly podcast about life, peaceful living, and existential dread. You're not lost. Everyone's faking it, and the purpose of life is, enjoy the show.
My name is Gloria, like my mama's name was. There's no such thing as death, because my mom is right here. Death would be when nobody else celebrates your life when you left your body. But if you celebrate life of others, even if they have no body, they will be alive. And they can even joke with you if you just allow them to be in a different essence, in a different matter.
One common phrase that I hear people say is that we live on in the memories of others. Is that a truth for you?
The truth for me is that I come from ancestral energy, and energy just transforms. I don't know about reincarnation or all that, but I do know one thing. My grandma herself saved my life. Once I was crossing a street, and she pushed me, and a white car passed. So I know that they can be there. Hello!
Where did I'm going?
I'm loving this. Being interviewed in the middle.
This is going to be an incredible bus ride.
This is. I want to interview you.
Oh, yes, you may.
Oh, my friend.
Gloria.
Did you say something, my son?
I think I said yes.
It's always yes.
Always yes. That's how we got here. How many of you said yes?
Yes!
Yes.
Yes!
Oh my goodness.
Say it again.
Say it again. Yes.
Luis, you keep planning, we keep saying yes.
Oh, you did!
Now we have more to plan.
Now we have another little bus.
The little bus. We love buses, right? We are getting used to it.
You don't know, but this thing started in Bhutan in a bus.
This thing right here started.
The Happiness Fest.
Yes.
Yes, the Happiness Fest in San Miguel, in Villa Sishu. Because I told Luis, I'm so happy, I just want to build a happiness school. And I have 2,000 square meters, what do you suggest we do? And he said, it's done. We will bring the Happiness Fest to your place, and then we will bring every month a group of happinizers, and there you have the Happiness Academy. And that's it. It's done. So 20th of March, we're inaugurating the Happiness Academy here in San Miguel.
This coming Tuesday, we're inaugurating the Happiness Academy
It's correct.
at the Villa Chichu.
It's correct. And the director is Luis Gallardo Calladito.
No, me, we are. I will have some ideas. That's it. And ideas that will flourish at some point.
This is a different level.
You feel it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there is a brother and sisterhood here in what's going on that wasn't present in the summit. And yet. But there's happiness in both places.
Great! I'm here feeling so happy. Are you happy?
I'm very happy.
Okay, what makes you happy?
I do. I used to think that I could seek outside of myself for happiness. I used to believe that. I used to think that if I had the job and the house and all of that, that it would all work out. And then I got hit by a car. And I realized after I almost, I decided to change some things. And I'm much happier. Even if I don't have as much as I had before, I have myself and I have the people that I love.
Happiness is something that have to wake up yourself from deep sleep. So if you know how to wake up yourself from the deep sleep, you can find ultimate source of happiness. The one who is surrounded by you, around you becomes brothers and sisters that wake you up from the deep sleep. and sometimes that is something that creates lots of conscious to create happiness. So we are on the same journey of happiness. So we are all happy. So because of we are happy, we can look everything, we can see everything looks very happy. Happiness depends on us.
When I met you today, I had seen your picture before and I knew of you. And when I encountered your energy, I felt this visceral experience of playfulness surge through my body. And I just wanted to jump around. And then we did. And it was wonderful. And I'll be honest, I was not expecting that level of play. And it was so self-generated within you. It's something that I wish to cultivate more of within myself. Seeing it being expressed in you fully is very inspiring. And I can see that there's a balance to it. It's not overwhelming in any particular way. It is just a matter of being who you are and sharing the joy of being alive. And I sincerely appreciate you sharing that with me earlier.
Thank you. I would really, this is why I am here. I have earlier mentioned to Luis and to the Sanghas that I'm not here to teach. I'm here to share. Share what I experience, what I have generated, what I have developed, what I have experienced. And those I consider as a wisdom that I can change myself too. So I'm here to share. So this is what I'm doing, and then let's jump as much as we want. Yeah, but not in Bhutan. If you jump in Bhutan, maybe we will fall down from cliffs, so that is very dangerous. So here we can jump as much as we want. That's something that I want to do, and I want to really discover this great place with great playballs that we have been gathering here.
How did you come to become involved in the World Happiness Festival?
It was through the Luis, especially Jigme Luis, that we met in Bhutan, and then he asked me to join this festival. Eventually, I have no certain things, or I have no certain feelings that could really evolve in whoever is attending this World Happiness Festival. But I'm sure that if you who really have positivities in what I am sharing will definitely evolve with this World Happiness Festival. So I cannot say this is not this could really evolve or something. This can bring so much changes to people, but this is seed. What we are saying, that we are putting the seed that slowly we have to be patient. We have to wait. We have to keep going so that we can see the flowers blooming. We can see beautiful fruits. We can finally get to eat that beautiful fruits in our lifetime.
And the distinction between teaching and sharing. There is much teaching already taking place, and it has gotten us where it has gotten us. And now we take it to the next level. And we are sharing of ourselves, and we are being a demonstration.
For what I think, I don't know how to say like what you say. I don't know how to implement like what you implement in. This is very beautiful indeed what you said. But on my own concept is that the teaching is responsibility of those who have a great wisdom, who already have accomplished or encountered themselves, fully recovered with their own true nature. For that, we can say someone can take us who we can take as a teacher can teach us. But for me, I don't have those qualities. I'm a very ordinary man who is full of illusions, always deluded myself, always trying to be on who I am. So that's why I'm here to share, not to teach.
Yes.
So I cannot teach anyone else, but I just wanted to share what I feel.
I appreciate the way that you see yourself as an ordinary man. Are any of us really special?
Yeah, every one of you, every one of whoever that is gathering in this happiness festival is very extraordinary. These people are with so much of experiences, and even like in the age-wise also, I'm very, very junior to everyone of all here. I must be the most junior one.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
28.
You're 28?
Yes.
Amazing.
So that's why I'm here to share, just not to teach.
Thank you for being here, and thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Beautiful man.
My name is Boris Bernatsky. I'm here to help my mom. She's doing a workshop on how to make talismans, like pendants to protect yourself, and she also has a jewelry shop here. Yeah, it's called Untamed Hearts. My mom's sort of motto is this peace for all and unconditional love for everybody. So she makes all of the jewelry with that concept, with that feeling in mind. The idea is that by wearing this jewelry imbued with this energy, you're able to resonate with it a little bit more and experience and emanate this kind of feeling for everybody.
The way that I see it is, I have this mala bracelet. This was given to me by a student, and I don't typically wear jewelry.
Yeah.
I find it to be cumbersome, and it's something I have to take on and off.
Me neither. I sometimes wear some stuff my mom makes, but otherwise I don't wear it because in my work, anything that's on me that's not necessary gets in my way.
Yeah. I do find it useful, however, as sort of an outward expression of what might be going on inside.
For me,
so that I can more easily connect with other people who might also have the same thing going on without the awkward first impression thing.
It's kind of like, I don't want to say advertising, because advertising has this negative connotation, but it's this way of spreading information.
Yeah.
But through a beautiful thing that also is nice to wear, and it's like a reminder to yourself. So sometimes, people wear different things, like they wear like ohms or crosses. Maybe it provides protection or something, but it's more of like a reminder that like, oh, right, I believe in Jesus, and when things are bad, I have this thing. It helps me remember that. Or the ohm, it's like, oh, okay, this is a tool I can use, and things are overwhelming, and I can just sit and meditate. So, that's the way I look at it. That's what's useful about it. And some things are just beautiful. Yeah, for me, I don't usually wear things because, as I mentioned, in my work, I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, and I don't like to push my things on people, so I try to dress as neutrally as possible. And also, when I'm working, I don't like things to drape off my hands and interfere with needles or my hand or body work, things like that.
My experience and my podcast partner's experience has been, when we get into mindfulness and meditation, there tends to be this kind of like, oh, everything is love and light and good vibes only, and there are many of us walking around with this repressed trauma and this darkness inside of ourselves that we're ashamed of, that we don't want to let out. And therefore it never gets healed. It never gets acknowledged. And it's not that we're going to use it to be hurtful for anybody, but it's something that's in us that is unexplored.
This darkness that you mentioned, I don't think it necessarily needs to be healed. If you look at all the classical traditions, all the old traditions, from the Judeo-Christian to Taoism, the concept of light and dark are kind of necessary for existence. And you don't want to eradicate the darkness.
Right.
Like in Taoism, for example, there's the Taiji symbol that you guys all know and probably refer to as the yin-yang symbol.
Yes.
So you need both. You need the male, the masculine, and the feminine. You need expansion and life, and you need death. Otherwise, life can't be rooted without death. From the plants, like the earth itself is decaying matter of things that used to be alive that are feeding the new life. If you did not have that, new life couldn't exist. So if you try to get rid of death, you end up without existence. If you try to get rid of life, then you end up without existence, because then it's just like stillness. Even in Christianity, I don't think that there's this concept of trying to get rid of hell. One of the purposes is to scare people into being good people. Another way to look at it is, I think in Jewish traditions, traditionally this concept of Satan is somebody like the little devil on your shoulder that tells you bad things so that you can overcome them and become a better person. Maybe it was Carlos Castaneda, or maybe it was a Buddhist writer, but there's this idea of living knowing that death is over your right shoulder, and you should live that way, because that way it sort of motivates you to just, not necessarily to be like completely indulgent in all your desires, but to like value what you have.
It's something that is inside of us that needs to be acknowledged. It's as integral a part of us as the light and happy side is.
Yeah.
and to be able to have command over both aspects of the self. I say both as though it's a dualistic reality.
Yeah, it's just
it's not even a spectrum. It's just aspects.
We have limited cognition,
Yes.
So we have to break things up into pieces to understand them.
So here we are cultivating all parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
Not just the parts that we like or that feel good. And in doing so, we have an opportunity to become somebody who can be dark if the situation calls for it. If being compassionate towards someone involves me being a real asshole in the moment,
perhaps,
because that's what's going to shake them out of their shit,
yeah.
I can do that, and I'm not ashamed of it.
The non-dualistic approach, it's just kind of like not being happy or sad, just being is probably the way that, I don't know, I'm partial to like Buddhist thought, where it's this kind of, oh, I'm happy, oh, I'm sad, oh well.
Yeah. Well, in that space we're being neutral.
Yeah.
We're being open, we're being aware of what's happening, and from that neutral space we can create anything if we choose to.
Yeah.
We have the power of the divine creator within all of us. We're modeled after him or her or it or whatever you want to
it's
refer
the thing
to it
that
as.
it's not words are not meant to describe it.
Yes, words are meant to describe everything that is not it.
Yeah.
But then again, is there anything that is not it?
There's like these two schools of Chinese thought, Confucianism and Taoism. One of the first things in Confucianism is there's this concept that before you start doing any kind of work, you have to rectify all the names. Meaning you have to establish the proper names for things. Whereas Taoism, the very first page of one of the major books, the Tao Te Ching, says, Dao ke Dao, fei chang Dao. So that it would be the Dao that can be Daoed is not the eternal Dao. But what that means in English is the Dao that can be walked, or the path that you can actually walk is not that eternal Dao that is above everything else.
Yes.
And then the name that you can call is not the actual name of things. So those are just abstractions.
Yes.
So it's interesting where there are two traditions that come from the same place almost. But one talks about how we have to name everything, and the other one talks about how you can't name everything. But it's interesting because
I think there's that truth coexists in each of the traditions.
Soon thereafter it says, those who talk don't know, and those who know don't talk. But then he proceeds to write a book after saying that. So it's like the idea is, even though that's true, we still have to try to do our best and get the point across.
Yes.
Right.
The importance of vocabulary and being clear on definitions is useful here in this physical plane to convey ideas, messages, and hope that they come across
the way you intend them.
Yeah. We run into that a lot, especially when speaking about our darkness. Something like anxiety, for example, is just a label.
Yeah.
It's just a label for a cluster of different body
emotions and sensations and and it's not necessarily bad. It's just when we call it something bad, but it's just this impetus to move and do something.
And the funny thing about it is that the labels do it some justice, but not really, because for me, for example, I experience anxiety in my chest as this hot, contracted feeling, but somebody else might feel it in their gut as this heavy, sinking feeling. But yet we both ascribe the same label to what may or may not be the same thing.
Yeah. It's actually interesting. So again, I'm bringing it back to where I'm coming from. So in Chinese medicine, we have this concept, when we say anger, we actually mean specifically things that are moving upwards and outwards but upwards. When we say joy, it's things that are moving in all, like it's the feeling of everything moving in all directions. Fear is this heavy dropping down, like downward feeling. Anxiety is this kind of bouncing around in the middle, can't find an outlet feeling.
Yes.
So there's this, it's like rather than, we use the words like anger and stuff to translate some of these concepts, but the meaning of the words is, it's like this, the movement of the chi in general, or the movement of energy in general.
Right. And it does feel like there is a movement taking place.
So like anger in nature is a tree growing upwards, and anger is not a good word for that case. In this case, a good word probably would be like this uprush, or this upward moving. And joy in nature is like fire.
Yeah.
It's like blazing in all directions.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that like we use these different words and different people have different meanings. So actually, when I talk to patients, I ask them, where do you feel it in your body, this feeling that you're describing, so that I can actually understand what they're saying rather than what they think they're saying, or what I think they're saying.
So we experience a lot of discomfort in our lives, and it's not something to be avoided. In fact,
that is what life is.
Yeah, and these emotions can be used as tools to really get to the bottom of what's really going on within myself.
If you believe that you could surpass being human, then perhaps you can escape these kinds of things. But as a human, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
We're supposed to have ups and downs, but I guess the if you are actually aware and can remember that at most times, that it's going to come down or it's going to go back up. And that way we can kind of try to create a medium place and enjoy and not suffer too much. The idea of death being there, like the kind of feeling as a child where anything is completely possible, and that concept of death is not there yet, but the concept of death being there maybe helps you live longer. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Maybe if you're too aware of it, you can't live at all, but like having some awareness of it and respecting it. And not fearing it, because either there's nothing and then you don't feel anything, or there's something and then that's something new. That's the way I approach it.
I'm Samdhu Chetri. I'm a Bhutanese, but I work at the Indian Institute of Technology in Kharagpur now. I've been invited here to share on happiness, basically, what makes us happy and how Bhutan is working around the concept of happiness. So that brought me here, and I tried sharing whatever little I know about happiness.
This is something that I think we couch this in a language that isn't really true, and we talk about what makes us happy. Is there anything that makes us happy?
Well, I think what makes us happy is what we are, actually. There's nothing that can make us happy. Nothing can make us happy unless we choose to be happy. So be happy is a choice for us, and happiness is inward. That's why we call it a state of mind. Nothing, no material thing or no compassion, no meditation can also make you happy, actually, if you're not accepting the state of who you are, what you are, and your mind at that state of movement.
Could you recall a time in your life when you did not have that wisdom and you would face different challenges within yourself? And what were some of the things that you used to come up against inside of yourself?
Well, I think there was really nothing that really challenged my life. In fact, I was trying things that are unbelievable. My little mind as a young child, I said, death, people die. Why do they die? And how do they die? I wanted to find how they die. So I jumped from a tree to die, but I didn't die. And I didn't know how death is, But I've seen people cry over dying people, and I believe we are not dead. We're never dead, because this body doesn't belong to us. It completely belongs to nature. And our soul invades the body when you are 3 to 4 weeks in mother's womb, probably. So therefore, even the mind, that consciousness or that soul that you speak of, doesn't belong to us. So basically, why do we worry of anything when nothing belongs to you? Right? So I forgot your question altogether.
Well, it was about challenges, but it seems that the challenge that you had when you were younger is that you were alive.
Yeah, that was a challenge, really. I don't remember having any such big challenges for myself to call in myself, because I always lived with this very basic principle, what my father has said: son, if you cannot appreciate what you have, forget about appreciating anything in your life. So I still live with those values very strongly. I do not desire for anything. That's something that the moment a little desire arises in my mind, I just stop it there. Of course, need-based desires are something else. As a human being, there are certain needs that you need to have basic facilities for your life. Of course, that desire will always be there, but beyond that, I don't call for.
You mentioned that nothing really belongs to us. This body, this soul of ours, it's all, you could say that we're borrowing it to hang around here for a little while. And but when we look out into the world and the way that it operates, and there's all this suffering about who owns what and who wants to get what resources, how do you see that playing out in our future, especially as you're beginning to develop a happiness index and a different way of measuring the way that we live together as human beings? What's going to happen?
Thank you for this profound question. In fact, I think I feel very sorry for these people who want more and more in life. When they have abundance, they still want more. And because they want more, is not going to be, they're so greedy. So Mahatma Gandhi said, on this planet there's enough for everybody except for greed. Even if there was one greedy person, it's not going to be enough. And exactly that's what is happening. Because of this greed, we are consuming like already 1.6 times the capacity of our planet. And like the example I gave, it's like asking a mother, you have to give 1.6 times birth a year. And I ask, is it possible? And they say, well, no. I said, it could still be possible with science and technology today, but is it sustainable? And the answer is no, definitely. Exactly this is what is happening today in our globe. The future with this greed, that a rich billionaire is not happy with what he has, he wants more, is an indication of the ultimate destruction of our planet. If we cannot understand this very fact and calm down ourselves and realize our true nature and needs, true needs, and only go along with those needs, then we are doomed. We are really heading towards a doom. I say we're walking towards a cliff with our eyes open, and we'll fall down with our eyes open.
Do you think that there is a level of humanity that is curious to know what it's like to jump off the tree and die?
I think there is. There is a group of people who think it's religious based. Ultimately, this is impermanence. One day, everything will vanish. That's fine. This I also agree. But that one day, why it make it tomorrow? We can also make it in a year, right? So, then the question arises, are we living for ourselves or for our generations to come? If we are living for ourselves, let's consume, do whatever we want, let's destroy the planet and vanish. But if we are living for our generations to come, then we need to change our perspective of, that anyway it will be over, let's do what we are doing. That should be immediately stopped. That thinking process must stop immediately.
Yeah. And I'm hearing that there's a level of responsibility at the individual scale to put that wisdom into practice on a daily basis, to acknowledge when we have greed that comes up, when we have desires that come up, and to manage our emotions and to lead by example. As far as I know, the most effective way to teach is to lead by example. It has never worked to give advice, and on some level it sounds really great to stand up in front of people and say, okay, this is what's happening, this is what we should do. But if we ourselves are not living in the way that we speak, no progress will be made. And I wonder how long it will take to reach everybody.
Well, I think this conscience of what is happening has really spread very well around the world. There are young people who believe in this and have begun to live actually a more simpler life, which they find much more profound than what their parents lived. And I think it's because of the parents we brought so much greed into our generation, or generation after me, not in my generation though. And I think now the generation after is becoming much more understanding, much more calming. They have much more calming effect. It'll take time still, simply because there are gap between the haves and do not have. This gap is so giant that the do not haves cannot accept that they're on such a plane. And why not we grow ourselves to a certain level where we can actually achieve something, and that already takes them towards the journey of greed. So how can we bring this knowledge of our old ancient wisdom into the education system, and that we transform our society from now on? And so, the elderly will just pass away, young people will come with new conscience, and they will tell us to do and not to do, and a new order in the world can come up. So this would be a generation, I would say, provided we bring this very fact into education system right now and here.
Yes.
Then it will take a generation.
We've spoken about doom, and I pray that it doesn't get to the point where the wealth gap gets to such an extreme that it causes war and chaos at a massive scale. I pray that not just the younger generation, but all of us can collectively stand up and correct our behavior. I see obstacles on two fronts. One, as a member of a younger generation, wanting to live a simpler life and coming up against the resistance of my family saying, "What, you're crazy, we worked so hard to get all these things that we have." Two, cultivating a generation of young students who are willing to be open and trust their teachers. And unless we really make some dramatic transformations in our education systems, it's not likely that we'll be able to build a harmonious relationship between those who are teaching and those who are learning. As things stand, we're teaching hard skills for a test. But as it's becoming known, and we've been speaking about it all weekend, that soft skills, emotional intelligence, mindfulness, all of these things are what are going to be required for us to coexist.
Right. In fact, the whole education system must transform. Today, if you talk about information which can be transferred into knowledge, there's so much out there in the Google, You on a click you can get everything. So the kind of education we should root ourselves through, or we should begin with, is exactly the soft skills, the emotional and the social skills that we need to embed in school. Children must know what is caregiving, what is caring yourself and caregiving, not only to others, their friends, families, but to the other sentient beings. This must arise. I would say education system with just mathematics and language. The rest, for example, if it is you have to teach biology, chemistry, physics and things like that, is no problem. Geography and things like that. Give a class few questions that you would want to teach in a week, and tell them, go ahead and find answers to this. Come back to the classroom. You form a group, you discuss among yourself, and you teach us, each other. I tell you, they will learn much better, much faster, and they can teach the teacher back very easily. So why are we not focusing curriculum more in terms of social and emotional learning? Why are we not taking mindfulness in schools? Why are we not taking this concept of meditation in school? Why are we not letting students go out into the nature, appreciate the rural life, take them out there, let them work with nature and see our own ancestors have lived that way. We are only detached from them because of this, growth, so-called development. But let them go back to realize, our roots are something totally different, and let's understand that deeply. And so that will be a way of even bringing an inner transformation for them.
And what next step are you taking to move the needle in this direction?
Well, at the moment I have left my work in Bhutan and I'm working at the IIT, Indian Institute of Technology, one of the best in India and subcontinent. In fact, some of the pass-outs of that, the alumni of that, are billionaires on this planet because they are the technocrats out of that university. Now we realize even they, the most brilliant guys, are so silos that they need something beyond to touch their own lives and see what life is all about. So I'm there to bring happiness and teach them mindfulness. And my journey is now 2 years I've committed, so I have to complete that. And after that I would like to travel everywhere and so that I'm living that actually, I'm living that, and also share the little that I know. And I would like to write books. with practically how I live, how I've been teaching practically to live this life in a little different way, yet much more realized and beautiful, much more enjoyable, much more happier.
Thank you so much for coming all this way to share what little you know.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your interview. You are as wise as anybody. So please keep it up as a young man. Bring this transformation, and you can do it. We can't do it because it's your generation who has, in Hindi you say bhadak jana, which means there is a way, path, but some elements have come in between, and so you have lost the way. So just remove those obstacles and you will find the path.
Yes. Thank you for sharing your wisdom in that. It'll be very helpful along my journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm Luis Gallardo. Well, I created this festival on the B CQ base, but now I'm helping a lot. I'm helping Hedru Rinpoche to build his monastery in Bhutan, to expand his teachings. I'm partnering with Super Brian to bring the message of mindfulness out. I feel that my job is to have a full vision of what's going on at the government level, at the education level, health, NGOs, and connect them. Because everybody's so good doing one thing, but few people are good pollinating and connecting all these people. So this is, I feel that that's my job, bridging, and then, but bridging with mindfulness. So it's not a bridge because we have to build a bridge. No, that bridge is going to bring us to some place that we need for the rest of the net to work.
It's establishing the legacy.
Yeah, it's a legacy. In this case, my legacy is just planting seeds, and then they will grow.
What I'm used to at events is that people are running around behind the scenes, freaking out, stressed. You don't seem that way at all. Maybe you are inside, and you can express it, but you seem collected and present, at least. There can be some of the dark stuff going on, too. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's happening. And here you are.
And here we are. Here we are.
Right? Like when it comes down to it, we're alive. And it's just happening.
Yes, and
Yes. Soya, por favor. Sí.
So here we are, asking for a coffee while we do the podcast, right?
Yes. This is happening.
And listening to Maureen Huiley,
yes,
talking to the heads of the schools in Mexico. So we have more than 20 heads, and they're in charge, among all them, of 1.5 million kids in the state of Guanajuato. So after this talk, we call them bishops because it's more about being. There will be a private meeting with the state, with 2 companies that are gonna be starting rolling out the whole. Basically, we call it emotional intelligence and social skills program, including meditation for 1.5 million people. So the way we've been working on this fest is for people to flow, people to be, but at the same time making meaningful connections. So the legacy that is going to happen and we are going to live after it is going to be so meaningful and impactful.
Yeah, the legacy is an important thing. It's not just be community, it's be legacy. And when I hear you say that, it is what comes to mind is what we're leaving behind and the actual impact that we're making right now. And this is the kind of conference where things are actually getting done. We're not just standing around talking about happiness. We are feeling it, being it, and sharing that wisdom with others who are here in the country who have power to make a difference for the next generation.
Absolutely. And that's the key. I think that in society we have different levels or stratus, or you call them from a pyramid point of view, you go from A to D. if we only focus on A or D, which is the bottom or the top, we are missing a big chunk. And actually, when you look at that chunk, actually those people there are the caregivers, are the teachers, are the psychologists, are the doctors. And this is the core for Happiness Fest. We need to impact on those who care, because they need to get reinforced, and they need secure bases that actually magnify and support what they are going to do going forward. We're going to keep going to ACE, to the top leaders, but there we are going to be working on conscious building. We want to build consciousness, and we are going to go to the bottom, but we are going to the bottom through the caregivers. And then creating awareness of course, because that's why we call it happiness, because it's a common word that everybody can understand. If you call it well-being, which is well-being at the same time, happiness is kind of subjective well-being.
Being well.
Or being well, exactly. Yeah. And if we understand happiness instead of being, then being well is very important.
Yes.
So that's the key. But yes, things happen, and we've been working on bringing people that they might not know it, but when they get together with somebody else that we know is going to be here, they are going to expand the opportunity and the potential. So that's happening here.
You mentioned something when you were on stage earlier about happiness being a human right. I get that viscerally. I feel that so deep within my soul that it is something that we should all have. And it's not that we should be avoiding anything that is not that, because it's actually being with all of that other stuff that doesn't feel good that expands our capacity to feel happiness. And what I'd like to hear more about is, what was your journey like that got you to the point where you realized that everybody could have happiness?
Sometimes there are no words for things, and this is what we are learning here too. Yesterday we did a demo on group flow, and we were connecting our hearts for an hour. Nobody spoke, but we all felt compassion, because we were having somebody else's heart in our hands. And it was represented by a light and by a sound. No words explain compassion. So happiness has no words. If we have to put words, for me, it's been, instead of being, where I can flow. So I think that for some reason, I flow when I connect people together, and I maximize their impact together. So since I was 8 years old, I was a coach, sport coach. So I was 8, and I was teaching kids 6 years old. And I think that I'm going back with the concept of happiness into coaching, which is, how do you get the flow out of everybody? By flowing. So, for example, you said about behind the scenes before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the more stress I feel with this type of organizations, the more calm I become. So this is my personal growth now. So much going on, and I get calmer. And I try to go wherever. So it's kind of interesting. I'm learning a lot myself.
How would you tell somebody how to actually do that?
Actually, that's why we have Happiness Fest.
So they should just come.
Yeah, they should come and be, because this morning was spectacular. We went 1 hour late, and then we finished on time. So this is not normal in events,
right?
Because normally you are 1 hour late, then the whole agenda changes for the whole day, and then everything gets messed. Today, practicing being in the flow, we are in the flow, and everything looks like it's organized. So, yeah, join Happiness Fest and join the big community. That's the solution.
Yeah. Last night during the flow exercise, I held your mom's heart. Your mother is the most beautiful woman. And we locked eyes just like this, and the amount of compassion and love that I felt flowing through her was immense. And I want to say, well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Wow. Amazing.
Have you had that experience of her?
With my mother?
Yes.
I feel her.
Yes.
You know that I love Dr. Shefali. She's a psychologist bridging spirituality, the West and the East.
Yes.
And she explored conscious parenting. And she explains very well the connection, emotional connection between the mother, not the father, sorry about us, the mother and the kids. So it's so important that they, mothers, understand that whatever they feel, the kids are going to feel. And sometimes we push so hard our kids to be something when basically they, as Dr. Shefali says, they don't belong to us. They come through us.
Right.
So you dream of your kid going to Harvard or being a basketball player. The reality is that who cares? Because they are going to be whatever. And if you frame them, it's going to be an issue here.
We were talking about that earlier, about setting expectations for your kids and having that develop them into competitive and not very nice people. And I came from that kind of place. I used to be very competitive. I was miserable. I saw all my peers as threats, and I was an overachiever. And I thought that was good. And it wasn't until I was 23 years old when I was able to distinguish that I was being that way in my life and what that had cost me. And sure, when you're in school, it gets you straight A's, but what value does that really have for anybody? It still doesn't mean anything to me today. And it's a game that I think we play as children that is not, it's not providing the service that it used to. And that this is happening here, that we're talking about bringing mindfulness into schools. And it's actually happening. The people who have the power to do it are learning exactly what to do.
After today, we are going to have 25 schools implementing right away mindfulness programs. And just because of this, it's going to be an impact in a couple of weeks of, I would say, 10,000 kids.
Yeah.
Approximately 10,000 in just a week of impact.
Not bad.
If we keep going, I mean, we want to reach 1.5 million just in one state. But we were 2 days ago with the presidency, and actually they're coming tomorrow, President of Mexico,
Yes.
The team running the happiness agenda. They want to include this into the whole education system. So this is big. We are talking about millions already. Just in Mexico, it will be around 40 million kids.
This is a beautiful country already, with beautiful people, and can you imagine what's next? And I think about us in the States, how we really need to step it up. We have this paradigm right now that's running in the political agenda that we are the best, and I'm not so sure about that anymore.
Being the best, I mean, being the best on what? I mean, when you put labels, right, and that those, I would say, dramatic labels, which is being number one, you're excluding everybody. Right. And we know this from Harvard professors, the level of depression. When you get to Harvard, everybody's a number one in their own school, and suddenly you get there, and there are few number ones. So basically, out of 100, is only one number one. And they were all number ones in their own places. And suddenly, everybody is not a number one anymore. That pushes you to a boundary that if you know how to manage your mind, is very stressful. So, I mean, this is the truth. Yesterday, I got a call from my kid. He was locked down in his school in Florida at the ATM FIU campus. So I got a call from my kid. He's 14, 9th grade. And Daddy, we are locked down, red coat. There are 2 shooters around outside the school. And they were hiding. But he was calling me from the school. And here we are talking about mindfulness for kids. And in the States, what we are talking is about giving weapons to teachers. This is why we really need this stuff. This is not contentment. This is not happy forever. This is actually working so hard to stop so much suffering and so much issues with mental health. Some of these shooters that they are doing this not just because of mental health, because they want to be on TV, because they want to be in the news.
It's about establishing a significance. Like, there has been no meaning to life, and this is the only way that I can see to be acknowledged, to be accepted in some way, even if it is not ideal. This is the only way that I can make myself known to myself. I went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. That was my high school, the one that got shot up a few weeks ago. And I'm still connected to some of the teachers and the students there. And having heard from what that was like, I think we have been moving backwards in our country for a long time. And this event, and this what I see happening in front of us right now, is an extreme breath of fresh air.
We need this as much as possible. So please compete to bring happiness to people.
Whoever brings the best happiness wins. Yes. Could you imagine? So most of us who are here are some of the top at the top of our field.
Yeah.
I can't say that about myself, but I'm meeting these incredible people. And could you imagine if we all showed up thinking that we were the best, that we were trying to one-up each other instead of making a community?
But that happens. That's why we even need for smarter. I mean, Rush was talking about that. Why smart people are so unhappy? Mm-hmm. Well, there is a question of reputation. There is a question of playing with the revenue system. There is a question with competition. So complaining and competition are killing us in many ways. Competition is great to, if it's fair, to push boundaries to another level. But if competition, which is at some point the enabler, becomes the evil mean, and just stick with the mean, then it's competing by competing. The top players, the top thinkers, they don't think about competition. They think about self-improvement all the time. Because they know that the better they are, the better impact they are going to have in the world. Is the ones who are third, fourth, 5 level is more mediocre, if we can use a word. Those are the ones who are comparing themselves, who are complaining, and who are competing. Those are the 3 C's. Sandhu talks about these 3 C's. Complaining, competing, and comparing.
Raj had mentioned the difference in mindset, the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. That when we come from a scarcity mindset, we see everybody else as a threat, and I remember what that was like. And I had to pretend to look happy, and it was not fun. It was incredibly painful, and I used to hold a lot of anxiety, a lot of despair, and there was a lot of clinging and attachment to approval. That I was always seeking somebody to say, okay, yes, you're doing a good job. That, okay, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. You're going to be great. You're going to be the best. And if I wasn't getting that approval, and if I wasn't constantly trying to be better than other people, I was not satisfied. And that road has an end to it. Once you're on top, I mean, what else is there?
Giving. That's the only way.
Yeah.
But if you want to be on top, it's because you're going to give. Otherwise, there is no meaning.
Right.
Even if you find your own meaning, at some point, if it's not serving others, it's not going to be sustainable. So.
And in order to give, we have to understand that there is plenty to go around. And that's the abundance mindset, which, and these concepts, these ideas operate behind the scenes. And there are so many people who do not understand what that is. And it's very easy to see why the world is the way that it is right now. But I see it moving in a better direction. And this is one step.
I couldn't agree more. And actually what you are doing, even with the podcast, is super cool. And your podcast in Miami, I love it. So keep going.
Thank you.
Keep doing it.
Thank you.
So glad you are here, Brian.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having coffee with me.
Una niña de 15 años la regañó
Next time on Mindfulness of Doom, we'll hear from Happiness Festival experts about the future of world happiness, breaking free from the expected life path, and the internal struggles psychologists face when you're not looking. This episode of Mindfulness of Doom is brought to you by Millennial Monks. That's right, Millennial Monks. I just don't get why they feel so entitled to enlightenment. This episode of Mindfulness of Doom is brought to you by jumping out of trees. Yes, jumping out of trees. Thrilling, but death is not guaranteed. Lastly, this episode of Mindfulness of Doom is brought to you by understanding happiness. Good luck with that. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Mindfulness of Doom, and we'll see you next week. We invite you to like, subscribe, and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever. Have suggestions, music, or artwork for the show? Want to sponsor our podcast? Find our contact page and links to the items we talked about in this episode at www.mindfulnessofdoom.com. Become a supporter of our podcast at patreon.com/mindfulnessofdoom and get access to exclusive content that's not on the show.
This podcast is recorded in Miami, Florida. It is written, recorded, and edited by Brian Lemmerman and Corey Hardacre. Our music is provided by Pallet Town and Suitcase Music. They can be found at soundcloud.com/pallettown and at suitcasemusic.bandcamp.com. All poorly thought out opinions are ours. Nothing you hear in this podcast should be construed as professional medical advice. Go see a therapist, all of you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful man.